How much protein can I eat and still be in ketosis?
This is such an individual question because everybody's particular biochemistry is different, especially between if you're a man or if you're a woman, if you're over the age of 40, if you're under the age of 40, underlying health conditions, what your health status is at the time. Personally, I can get away with quite a bit more protein intake than probably Tara can and still stay in ketosis. Also, I'm very active, I'm doing strength training, so I am breaking down, proteins and into amino acids, and I'm building, I'm doing muscle synthesis, so I'm doing things with the protein that I'm eating. There's kind of a misconception out there that if you eat too much protein, and yes, there is like a ridiculous threshold that you would have to hit, that it's going to lead to the dreaded gluconeogenisis. But gluconeogenesis from protein is really inefficient and is really the body's last resort. So to say that if you eat a whole lot of protein that you're instantly going to go into, have a bunch of gluconeogenesis is kind of ridiculous, because we already know that being in ketosis is a protein sparing diet. And that is, if you look at
muscle sparing?
Protein and muscle sparing diet.
Okay.
Right? So if you look at, oh man, I lost the word. Anyways, if you go back 100,000 years and you were in starvation mode, you would go into ketosis, into starvation. And you would need to preserve that muscle tissue so that you could go find new food so that you could get out of starvation, right? So that is kind of built into being in ketosis, is that it's a muscle-sparing, protein-sparing diet. Now, yeah, you can eat a ridiculous amount of protein and end up with gluconeogenesis, but the first thing it's going to burn, your body's going to use for fuel, is glycogen. The second thing it's going to use is fats, and then it's going to break down proteins and do gluconeogenesis. So unless you're eating ridiculous amounts of protein and not being active and not doing anything, and you don't already have a lot of fat on your body to burn, then yeah, you're going to see some gluconeogenesis. But again, it's very highly individual, and just do an N of 1 experiment. That means an experiment on yourself and see how much you can get away with. Maybe you can utilize something like the pulse method, where one day you eat 50% protein, and the next day you eat 30% protein, and the next day you eat 30% protein, and day 4 you eat 40% protein. So you're kind of pulsing it in and out of this higher range of protein, and you would probably still be okay, but you would have to do that experiment on yourself to know if that works for you, and test. Yeah.
So
sorry, that's a long answer.
Well, a related question is it okay to drink protein shakes while doing keto? And I generally don't recommend protein shakes because you really don't need the extra protein. If you want a shake, if you want something that's easy, that you can get added fats and added nutrition, look at Keto Chow's products. They have a whole line of delicious shakes. And when we travel, I've always got some.
Yeah, and there's a lot of collagen proteins out there, so collagen protein is just a little bit different from your typical whey protein in that it is lacking a few of the amino acids. But really it's just protein powder, but it's got collagen, which we know is really, really great for us. It's good for your skin, it's good for your joints, it's just good for your body in general. So we don't typically recommend drinking your calories. There is something about the preprandial and prandial phase of eating, the chewing, the mastication of food, that does something in your body, right? It sends signals in your body that, hey, look out below, food is coming in. And if you're drinking, especially if you're drinking something cold, then you are, I don't want to say a politically incorrect word that would describe this perfectly, but you're arresting, I'm not going to say the R word, but you're arresting that process a little bit and slowing down those enzymes, because they weren't given the signal that food was incoming, that nutrition was incoming. So we typically don't drink a lot of our calories throughout the day. Certainly not the only thing we eat during the day. Or I'm rambling now.
Yes. What is gluconeogenisis?
Okay.
I was going to have you describe that, but I thought maybe I missed it when you did.
Okay. So just to cycle back on that, yes, I do take protein shakes.
You do?
Not often.
Okay.
But I do.
Occasionally.
And we'll use something like Keto Chow when it's appropriate. But I'm not going to drink protein shakes 3 times a day, meal replacement shakes, as my only source of food. I'm just not going to do it.
Okay.
What is gluconeogenisis? So that is the formation of new glucose basically from things that are no longer glucose, right? So you can break down protein, break down it into its constituent parts, and reform it into glucose. So neogenesis, neo being new, the new formation of glucose. So your body will if you wait long enough and don't eat for long enough, your body will eat your heart and turn it into glucose. It will turn muscle into glucose to feed your brain, because your brain, there's parts of your brain, and there are parts of your heart even, that only run on glucose. They can't, like 25% of your brain cannot use ketones for fuel. They require glucose. And
but
that's
you don't
why,
have to eat it.
Right, and that's why our body has mechanisms built in to make its own glucose. Make it from triglycerides. What's a triglyceride? It's a stored form of fat. So it's 3 fatty acids hanging off what? A glycerol backbone. That glycerol backbone goes back to the liver when it's burned or broken down and becomes glucose. So from burning of fat, you get glucose.
Yeah, when your body needs it, your body can create its own glucose. So carbohydrate is the only food group we absolutely do not need to eat.
True.
Fun facts.